Welcome to That's Canon, the podcast talking about the Canon film series and other similar movies. This is episode 62, and I'm Phil.
And I'm an alien from Mars.
An alien that kind of looks like you either look like a butt
Or a
a
meatball.
Tyrannosaurus Rex or a meatball. A meatball butt and a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Because we're talking about the 1986 film Invaders from Mars, directed by Toby Hooper.
Toby Hooper. Toby.
I think we have
Tobes.
this conversation every time.
It's Toby. It's definitely Toby. But it's missing that Y.
It is. You know what? All right. How to say
Google's just gonna respond with, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
It is Toby Hooper. I don't know. Like it just looks weird. Tobe.
Yeah. Maybe it needs a little accent on the E. Tobe.
Yeah.
Like Tobe beef.
he's from the Kobe region of Japan. This is his second film in a 3-film series for Canon, because he did
a contract deal. Like you do 3 movies, right?
Yeah, he did Life Force before this, and Life Force was, if I'm remembering right, not amazing. Lots of boob, but not great.
A lot of boobage, but kind of. I think I have to go back and look at my notes, but I think that was like a solid 3 for me, maybe even a 2.5.
Because the ending was kind of cool, and then there was Patrick Stewart in it, who was always awesome.
Oh yeah, Dr. Evil Guy. He's like a psychiatrist, right?
Yeah, but there was space vampires or space vampire bats.
That's right. Yeah, they were space vampire bats. The main lady was naked chick, never found her clothes, and then the end was just like freaking end of the world madness, which is pretty dope, which we got a glimpse of in this movie.
Yeah, no naked chicks in this one. This was very much more like a family film, like a family adventure film.
Yes, I was going to mention this at the end, but this just to kind of set the tone for this movie. To me, it felt like a family-friendly version of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Exactly.
A slightly less dark, a little bit more kind of goofy and comic booky and campy, which I mean, definitely they're going for, because this was a remake, right, of a 50s movie.
Yep. This was a remake of a movie from 1953. And you can kind of tell, just it seems like I wonder if the Blob remake was around this time, because the Blob remake did the same thing where they kind of winked at the audience and they're like, remember this from the original, but then they did it like 1,000 times better.
Oh yeah, the Blob remake was 88, so around this time. So this must have been part of like a trend that they were just kind of going back and remaking a lot of like classic sci-fi horror. I mean, hell, The Thing, I mean, that was a remake too, essentially. Yeah. So I think that must have been like an 80s thing that had this throwback to classic sci-fi and horror.
And it's kind of interesting that people nowadays, I guess it's, mainly comic book movies, but everyone complaining that, there's like no original ideas in Hollywood. But there was a swath of movies in the 80s that essentially did the same thing.
Yeah, it ain't new.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. But yes, this one, again, directed by Tobe Hooper, screenplay by Dan O'Bannon.
Yeah, of Alien fame and Revenge or Return of the Living Dead fame as well.
And Total Recall. And exactly. The Return of the Living Dead. There is a little connection there. I wish it was more in the movie.
Yeah.
But we do have a Return of the Living Dead alum in this one. And the cast is all right. It stars Karen Black. I'm kind of hit or miss with her.
I remember we were at the end of our last episode, we mentioned that Karen Black was, and I was like, oh, because I remember being kind of all right. But then I went back and I was thinking about it. She was the star in that movie Burnt Offerings with our boy Oliver Reed. And that was awesome. A great haunted house movie. And I actually, after I remembered liking her in that, I kind of came into this one with more of an open mind. And she was all right in this one. But
and Annie Lee's Meat Pies.
That's right.
The amazing Annie Lee Meat Pies.
Her and Pat Morita as
the
sheriff. Wow, what a interesting cast that one had. But yeah, no, she was all right in this. I mean, I think I got to give her a lot of credit, because like Burnt Offerings came out in, I think, 76, 77. and this was 86. She like didn't age a day in that 10
No.
years. Like she looks the same in both those movies. So huge credit to her. I mean, yeah, whatever her skincare regimen is, it was
Yeah.
awesome.
She looked great. And the boy who's in this is Hunter Carson. That's actually her son.
What?
Yeah. This is a mom son power, I'm not gonna say couple,
Hmm.
team up movie.
Ooh,
Karen Black and Hunter Carson. Yeah, mom and dad, or mom and dad, mom and son team up movie.
interesting.
Yeah.
That kind of explains it. They had an interesting dynamic. Like they seemed very comfortable with each other on screen. I remember there were a lot of times where like the kid was like touching her face at
Yeah.
times, like to shush her and keep her quiet. Like I don't know. For some reason, that jumped out to me as like that's a weird thing. Like it must be weird for the actress to like this kid is fucking touching my mouth. But I guess it makes sense now.
There's a couple weird things in this movie, and we should get into it.
Mm.
You're gonna get quality. I'm just gonna say it. You're gonna get some quality when you get the full canon shebang.
Yep, full logo, full animation, full sound effects. Yeah, looks great. And I think the rule, I actually wrote in my notes, oh, we got the full canon logo. Will the rule hold? And it did, I think.
I immediately got worried, actually, because
oh,
the
the rule.
fucking intro credits are so long and so boring, and it's some fucking Superman bullshit
Yeah.
where like the names and the title cards are swooping towards the screen.
And who thought red text on black, like space starfield background was a good idea? You can, like, if it weren't for like the white, like, jet stream behind the text, like, you wouldn't even be able to read that shit.
Yeah, you need like a white bold outline on these fucking letters to catch the
Mhm.
moving text. It's horrible, and it goes on entirely way too long. It is the first 3 minutes of the film.
Oh my
What a way to
god.
like undercut the wind in your sails from the immediate get-go.
Yeah. I just want to see the goddamn aliens.
Exactly. Like when did movies kind of transition from this kind of introduction? Because that used to be
Uh,
very commonplace where it's like we're going to sit here and watch 5 boring minutes of credits.
yeah, geez, even going back even further, remember like at the beginning of 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it was before the credits, there was like an orchestral overture,
Yeah,
like almost like it was like a theater
exactly.
production.
So
Yeah,
weird.
they've definitely trimmed a lot of fat from the front half of movies. They want to get your ass in the seat and blow your hair back right away. I keep you there.
Exactly. And as we transition, we finally get some action where a father and son are watching a shooting star, right? I guess it must be a meteor shower going on at this time. And the kid at one point goes like, holy shit, that one's huge.
Let's watch the casual swearing, son.
And the dad, he just kind of like rolls it off like it's nothing.
No, but the dad. Speaking of actors and characters in this movie, this guy definitely has the that's guy face.
Timothy Bottoms.
Yes, he was the only thing I know him from is he played George W. Bush in that. Remember
And
that?
that's
That's my
my
Bush.
Bush.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the one season Comedy Central show from fucking what 2002 or something.
As soon as I saw him, I was like, God, this guy is so familiar. What
Yeah,
is he from? And he's just a bit player, but I mean, he's got that face.
he's got a
He's
good
in a
dad.
ton of
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, exactly. He's
playing
got
the
the dad
dad.
face.
Yep.
And the mom, Ellen. So the dad's name is George. The mom, Ellen. I'm gonna let George Pardo from SNL introduce her. Lorraine Newman from SNL.
Hey, that's another familiar face.
Which again, like I saw her. And I read the cast list too, obviously, with the intro
Mhm.
credits and looking at IMDb. And I'm like, God damn, she looks so fucking familiar. I
Yep.
honestly thought Lorraine Newman died in like the 70s.
Surprise, she's alive playing
Not
an
only
80s mom.
not only is she alive, she's still doing stuff.
You heard it here, folks, first.
She's
Bill
like
thinks everyone's dead.
a big voice actor. She's done a ton of TV. She's been like SpongeBob SquarePants, Scooby Doo, Cars.
Oh, she's like doing a lot of voice work now.
Lot of voice work. Very interesting And very happy to see that she's still alive.
I feel fine. Wow, isn't that nice?
Yeah, exactly.
Confirmed, not dead.
Confirmed, not dead. Lorraine Newman.
Sue us, Lorraine Newman.
But what I thought was really interesting was like the dialogue between the father and son, very like warm and inviting.
Oh, super wholesome.
But when they talk to the mom, they dismiss her like she's some cold-hearted bitch.
I noticed that too, and it continues for like most of the first act too, where like they just treat her like a box of rocks. Like it's, I almost think that's intentional. Like it was an intentional throwback to like the 50s, where like the mother characters were basically like live-in maids, like, and that's how they were treated.
That's a nice way of saying like they're essentially female slaves in the 50s.
Yeah, like it's one of those things like they really leaned into making it like a throwback to that era of film, and it's like I would be okay if you left that one out of the, like, you didn't have to bring that trope forward.
Exactly. It definitely was kind of like caught me off guard. Just because the father and son dynamic is so well done.
Yeah, and the mom is just like, "Do the dishes, mom."
Exactly.
Which I think is the fucking thing that he says too.
Yeah, he's like, "Go downstairs and do the dishes."
Jesus.
Okay. So they're tucking their son into bed, and they're, again being abusive towards the mom. And the dad like pulls out from his cable knit sweater a 1950 double die penny, which you're thinking, what the fuck does this matter?
Wink, wink.
But the dad makes a grand gesture of putting it in the kid's jacket and like smacking the
patting
the pocket
chest,
of it and going like, I'm going to put it in here for safekeeping. If this penny, because the penny is in like a container of sorts, right? If it's so important, why the fuck would you put it in the kid's coat?
Yeah, that kid's gonna that's just gonna go through the wash. It's gonna get ruined.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you think it's gonna be innocuous, but wink, wink, set up payoff. We might see it later.
You just might.
What kid collects coins?
Nerds.
This kid must get the shit beat out of him on the playground.
It's the 80s. He's not playing Minecraft. He's out in the woods looking for pennies and shit.
Looking for pennies and shit. As kids do. Yep, out there with a metal detector.
As the kid is turning off his nightlight on his bedside table, I would be remiss to point out that the M&M's package is extremely well lit and are just like right there.
I noticed that M&M package too. Weird.
Yeah.
It was huge too. Like
it was.
The M&M package were ginormous. Is that what M&M packages looked like in the 80s?
Probably. Or the M&M packages in the movies, that's what they look like.
Yeah,
so you can see that.
You can see those M's from across the room.
Exactly. M&M's was like, we missed out on E.T. Not again. We're going to get put into the next alien movie starring a kid.
That Reese's Pieces treatment.
Exactly. But later that night, a storm blows in, and as the kid, what's the character's name? I can't just call him. I don't know.
Kid. Bobby.
David. You were close.
Yep, David. Whatever.
David looks out, and I swear, as the camera transitions from the inside of the house to the outside, do they move to a miniature of like the outside?
We got to talk about this. So the geography of this house is such that they're all like on a hill, and behind the house there's like another hill, and it's like the most picturesque looking hill. There's like a nice little like wooden fence, and there's a little path, and it kind of like the path kind of goes over the crest of the hill and disappears. I thought it was a miniature at first too, because of how just like the way the grass and the trees looked, but we see people walking on it later. I think it's just a set.
Okay, yeah.
Because there's no way like in real life like the hill like would drop off so quick after that, because people would like walk over the crest of the hill and then they would like immediately disappear underneath, like past the crest of it. It had to have been a set. Like they knew that that's the look that they wanted, so they had to construct a set. I'm thinking it would like the hill, just the set hill went up, and then there was like a set of stairs or something behind it that they walked down.
So as David looks out onto this picturesque hill, as you put it, he notices a alien spacecraft landing. Woo! And it looks pretty cool. It looks very ET-ish. It's like a
Yeah.
ball. It's got the lights on the bottom of it. It looks like it's an ET.
Yeah, it's this is definitely another part that feels like kind of like a retro alien space like spacecraft, like a flying saucer kind of thing, but not actually a flying saucer.
I wonder if
Lots of
that's what the
bright
original
lights.
one looked like.
It had kind of a, I mean, it was almost like a, it looked kind of like a potato almost,
Yeah.
kind of a potato shape with lights in it.
Interesting. It was an interesting shape, that's for sure. So
Yeah.
David freaks out and he immediately runs into mom and dad's room where he wakes everyone up and they start talking about like, oh, it's just ball lightning that you're seeing, which is ball lightning is a rare and little known kind of lightning, having the form of a moving globe of light several centimeters across, which persists for periods of up to a minute. How the fuck does this family, I guess because the dad's a NASA space engineer,
I
but how does the
guess.
kid know what ball lightning
Yeah,
is?
like wasn't it one of those things that like it just for like the longest time people knew it existed, but they never had actually captured it on film. Like
Yeah,
where would have even seen a picture of it? I don't know. I ain't no science nerd, but this kid's like, I know a ball lightning looks like, Dad. This wasn't it.
exactly.
The hell you do?
The kid is a kid, right? David is probably like a 12-year-old child. His acting though is, I'm not gonna beat him, but it's pretty bad, right?
Yeah, it's not the best child acting that we've seen. For some, I'm jumping back to the Godsend. Remember the kids in the Godsend?
Yes.
They were awesome. Super creepy.
Get the godsend kids. Where are
Yeah,
they at?
they're probably like in their 20s by now. But
They
yeah,
can walk on their knees.
there you go. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, he's all right. It's not terrible. It doesn't like totally rip me out of it, but some of the like I think it's when he's meant to be acting like really serious. Like when he's yelling and screaming, he's okay, but when he's trying to act serious and like just like give exposition, he's not so good.
This was Hunter Carson's like only big film. So I guess maybe he did this, realized it really wasn't for him, and he kind of just faded off and just did bit things here and there.
Karen
Because he
Black's
has
like, maybe you should become a dentist, honey.
exactly exactly. As we wake up and it's the morning, Lorraine Newman is writing answers to a test on her hand. I guess she's like a student.
Yeah, that was a weird little like thing that didn't go anywhere. It sounded like she was like studying for her like public accountant exam or something.
Exactly. David's giving her some shit like, oh, you're not, that's cheating. You're not supposed to do that.
Eh. As he's drinking a Dr. Pepper for breakfast.
Exactly. Well, it's the 80s. People didn't understand that caffeine and sugar were bad for you.
Sugar's good for you, honey. Part of a
Uh,
balanced breakfast.
exactly. Well, I mean, you got to look at it. Sugar Smacks when they all sell that cookie cereal back then.
Can't get enough of that sugar crisp.
There you go. This episode brought to you by Sugar Crisp. Everyone knows that every bouncing baby boy that joins the army needs to wake up and have a nice cold Dr. Pepper and a bowl of Sugar Crisp.
Add them together for an extra boost.
Exactly. Trying to, oh my God. That would be horrible. As the dad wakes up and he comes out into the living room, you notice that something is amiss. He's missing a slipper. He's acting kind of bland, right?
Yeah,
Before
kind
he
of
was
zombie like.
warm and inviting. Now he's a zombie. Which I thought, okay, so you can immediately put it together that he has now been possessed or he has been controlled by an alien.
Right. He's definitely in puppet dad mode.
They didn't have a scene or a moment where the dad's like, I'm going to go investigate the weirdness outside.
Yeah, because like at the night before, when the kid's like frantically explaining what he saw, and the parents are just like, "Okay, Billy," or David, or whatever the fuck his name is. Like he doesn't say, "Oh, I'll go check it out," does he?
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
In fact, I think he's like, get back to fucking bed.
Right? Yeah, like that's how I thought that they left that scene, and that's what they needed is like him maybe waking up early, like looking at his watch. He was like, "Man, maybe I'll check it out after all." Like that's all it would have taken.
Exactly. Because David immediately notices that there's something amiss with the dad, but Lorraine Newman is kind of just, I guess, aloof. She's just like, I'm the wife, and just doesn't really notice that her husband, that she's, obviously slayed once, is totally different.
Oh yeah, totally different. And like Yeah, like the fact that like his slippers are missing, he's like all dirty. She's like, "Oh no, you lost your good leather slippers. I'll pick up some more on the way home." Just
Exactly.
totally I mean, classic like 80s movie parents, right?
Yep.
Like totally oblivious to all of the real shit going on. The kid's the only one in the know. Gotta give it credit for that at least.
Uh, David does notice though that the dad has a blemish of some kind on the back of his neck, which he's kind of like the dad just dismisses it and he's like, "Don't worry about it." Um, as the kid is about to get ready to go to school, like the dad, for some reason, despite the fact that he was alone with the kid for a good amount of time, decides to abduct him or attempt to abduct him right in front of the school bus. Right. And he's like,
Yeah,
let's go check out the alien shit over there.
let's go. It's really cool and something you never seen before. Like you were just we just got that long ass breakfast scene where he's like dumping Tic Tacs in his coffee and chugging it, which is also super weird, by the way. Like, why wouldn't you just snatch the kid then?
Yeah, exactly. And what was the point of the Tic Tac part?
I don't know. Like, we have already established that this guy is acting something weird and the kid's already suspicious, but like that alien just eliminated all doubt in that kid's mind when he dumped, I don't know if it was Tic Tacs. What the hell was it? Little
That
white
was Tic
pellets or
Tacs.
something. Yeah. And then he like dumped him his coffee and then just chugged the hot coffee. Like,
Exactly.
okay, well, your cover's blown. You're clearly an alien. This kid doesn't, he totally suspects you now.
But
Ask,
the kid, oh, go ahead.
ask him to go on the walk to the behind the hill before you chug your Tic Tac coffee.
Exactly. He's the first alien. He's the, that has talked to humans. So he doesn't realize how to like
That's true.
interact with
He's
them
not a
just
blend
yet.
in yet. Yeah.
Exactly. But the kid goes to school and it's science class, and they're going to be, I mean, I almost said abducting frogs. They're going to be dissecting frogs.
The fuck kind of science class is this?
And kids are chucking fucking dead frogs across the room. But David is the one who gets caught by the teacher, who immediately, like, as soon as you see her, Mrs. McKelchich, or however the fuck you say her name,
I don't
you're
know.
like, she's a bitch.
And played by who, Phil?
Louise Fletcher.
Louise goddamn Fletcher. She is Nurse Ratched, of course. But the Star Trek fans of our podcast will immediately recognize her as Kai Wynn from Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
She's just like one of those actors and actresses that just they are so good at playing evil people, like people you love to hate in movies. It's such like it's such a like unique talent, I feel like, and so few people have it. But man, she's good at, and what great casting to have her be the evil science teacher too.
Exactly. She does like the whole, she like counts down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in order to get her students to be quiet. She's always acting like what she's doing takes so much energy out of her. Like she's always like exasperated by just dealing with the children.
I need a drink. She's definitely that kind of teacher. She's got like a hip flask under her desk. She's sipping from
Exactly.
every day.
Yeah. I wonder what it was like for her after doing Nurse Ratched,
Oh yeah,
where they're just casting her based off of, you're a bitch. You're a really good bitch.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't she in another movie that we've seen on the watched for the podcast? I feel like she has been.
Maybe.
I'll have to go back and look through my notes, but yeah, I mean, again, I do kind of feel bad that she's typecast in that role, but damn, she's always plays it so good. Like it's hard for me to complain, honestly. Bad for her career, but good for us.
Exactly. Well, I mean, bad for her career. She went from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest to The Exorcist too. So they all can't be winners. How crazy is that when you're like, hey, I won like an Oscar, and now I'm going to follow it up to a sequel to a major motion blockbuster, and it's fucking Exorcist 2.
And then she started doing TV in the 90s. What a real, I mean, I'm not complaining. Deep Space Nine's amazing, but
interesting to note, though, she did star in Grizzly 2: The Revenge. Have you heard of this movie?
No.
Starring George Clooney, Laura Dern, Charlie Sheen, John Rhys Davies. This movie was made in the 80s, and they didn't have enough money to finish it, so it got shelved. And then it wasn't until recently that they like got some assemblage footage and some just like, what do they call it, B-roll from other shit,
and they just like cut it
and
together,
hodgepodged it together, and it recently just got a release.
Is I'm sure it's we should watch
Oh,
that sometime. That's gotta
yeah.
be terrible.
It's got to be terrible, terribly awesome. George Clooney, fucking, or I know it's super tangent, but early George Clooney roles where he's like in Return of or Attack of the Killer Tomatoes and stuff like that, super weird,
Yeah,
super weird.
they probably, given all that big A-listers in there, they probably would have preferred that movie just like quietly be forgotten about forever.
Exactly.
Nope.
Unfortunately, David cut his finger while flinging frogs around on a knife, so he gets taken to the nurse's office where teacher Ratched's like, he cut his finger, he really deserved it. But
Jesus Christ.
the school nurse is Karen Black, and I was wondering, like,
Hey.
I was kind of surprised that Karen Black wasn't the mom. I will say that.
Yeah, that seemed like the not obvious, but like you could see them pigeonholing her into the mom character. But I'm glad they didn't. She does better than as the school nurse.
Exactly. She had a very matronly features and persona in this
Yeah.
film, right? But David comes back home and it's kind of creepy. The door's open. He is on high alert and he notices that mom and dad are both acting weird now.
Yeah, and this is where we get that little clip of Life Force playing on TV, because when he comes in, he sits down in the living room. Life Force is playing on the TV. What a man! These canon movies love to show
Other canon crap.
other canon crap. Yeah, on the TVs the characters are watching.
Exactly. You know it was Menachem Golan going like, we need to make money from Life Force, so show it on the TV.
Show it on
get
TVs.
People interested.
People are gonna be like, "What's that movie?"
Exactly.
Wow.
Double
And
duped.
poor Toby Hooper's like, "Please, please don't."
Don't, unless it's the woman's boobs. Don't do this.
You know, it's actually kind of a neat little bonus that the fact that we're watching all these canon movies in chronological order, so that we can actually spot it when it shows up on TV. Because I mean, Delta Force showed up in one of the, I forget what, one of the
POW
Dangerously
movies.
Close.
Yeah, Dangerously Close.
Yeah, you're thinking Spider-Man in POW. Yeah,
when they try to get Spider-Man and shit like that.
yeah.
Interesting.
Kind of
But
cool.
two cops are now at the house and they're investigating the odd occurrences that happened in the previous night. And she's like, yeah, it happened over in that hill. Like, I don't know what they call it, but Buddy Friendship Hill. And the cop is
Copper Hill.
Copper Hill. Like, there you go. Copper Hill. Oh yeah, that's a huge plot point.
Wink, wink. Pennies, copper.
It's over at Copper Hill. And like one of the cops goes, I haven't been up there since I was a little boy. That cop was the little boy in the original Invaders from Mars film.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Was it the mustached cop or the smiley cop?
The mustachioed older cop.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Neat casting there.
And they walk over the hill to their doom. But as the cops exit the scene, Dad and his buddy show up literally jumping out of a bush.
Yeah, so I think that's why the cops were there originally, because like Dad wasn't home, Mom snuck up on the kid while he was watching TV. They're like, don't worry, he'll be home soon. Time passes, they freak out, they call the cops, and that's why they go back to like, oh, he said he was going to go look at the hill, and the cops went back there to find it. And then like as soon as they're out of frame, this motherfucker just like jumps out of a bush, like he said. He's like, are they hiding back there?
Hey, family, how's it going? And then what's even weirder is like his friend just. It seems like that this family lives in the middle of nowhere. The friend is just like, okay, I'm gonna go home, and just walks off into the night.
Yeah, like not getting into a car or taking a bus or anything.
Exactly. Super weird. The cops do come back, and now you can tell that they're possessed or controlled by aliens. So the possession happens extremely quick.
Yeah, and actually like they really give it away, because I think the smiley cop is like rubbing the back of his neck as they're walking back down the hill too.
Exactly. Telegraphing it from a mile away. But it's the next morning and things are getting creepier because Mom is like burning bacon. She's like squeezing raw meat. She's like, oh, we can make burgers. You love burgers.
She like dumps like a whole thing of Morton salt on like a burger patty, and then just like shoves the whole thing into her face.
Yeah, the dad is eating super charred bacon, and like you can hear the crunch, the audible crunch of the bacon.
Phil, this might be a divisive topic, but do you like your bacon crispy or kind of chewy?
I can go either way. I do like the fat on it. right? I don't want
Mhm.
my bacon to like limp, but I don't want it like his suit is black and his
It,
bacon
it was basically cinder.
is cinder. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like it's the same color. What about you?
So I think it depends on how I'm eating it. If I'm just like a breakfast in there where I'm just eating the bacon straight, I want it to be like, yeah, a little bit of a chew to it, a little bit of fat. But if I'm eating it in a sandwich, I want it to be crispy, because if you have chewy bacon in a sandwich or a burger or something, you bite into the bacon and you like pull the whole thing out of the sandwich when you take a bite out of it. It needs to
And,
be crispy in a sandwich.
oh yes, 100%. In a sandwich, it has to be crispy. Just like
Mm.
an accoutrement to your eggs in the morning, it can be either way.
Exactly. Yeah. There's definitely more variation there. So
Exactly. It
I'm
can't
glad.
be oinking, that's for sure.
Not eating that raw beef tartare for
Exactly.
breakfast with your eggs.
Exactly.
How about bacon now?
So now David, he's at school and there's like some interaction with some kids. They're like, oh, aliens, blah blah blah, and no one's really believing David.
All the guys really think you're spaced,
Yeah.
said the little kid.
1950s doo-wop lingo coming
Yeah,
from the mouths of
right.
children.
Come play baseball, Billy. It'll be a gas.
So David does the only logical thing. He goes back into the classroom to deal with teacher Ratchet, and she's in like the science classroom closet chomping down on fucking frogs.
Oh man, it is. I love that approach too, because it's the kid. He like sneaks back in. The classroom is dark and kind of quiet, really moody. He walks back into like the teacher like planning office in the back, and you just her back is to the camera. He's like sneaking up behind her, and you can tell like you saw the frogs earlier, like 100% that that's what's going on.
Oh,
But
exactly.
but when she turns around and she's got like half a frog, like legs still kicking outside the like, oh, that's awesome.
It like, and you see her like suck down the legs. I always wonder how they do gags like that because it's obviously her real face.
It
So how do they get like the frog legs? Is she just mouthing it and then quick cut spit it out?
Yeah, I think it's like they progressively put like there's like half a frog in her mouth and there's like a quarter of a frog. They between those cuts they put smaller piece in her mouth so that when she can finally swallow it, it's all gone. I
Interesting.
think.
Could be like a gummy frog too. Maybe she like actually eats
Mm.
it.
Poor Louise Fletcher, from an Oscar winning film to having to swallow frogs.
Eating candied frogs. David is reasonably freaked out and he runs down the hallway into the waiting arms of Karen Black, who is protecting him from Teacher Ratchet. And he's kind of like telling her, like, hey man, she's weird. She was eating frogs. I think she might be an alien. Karen Black takes it all with stride.
Yeah. Like she's got no reason to believe this kid who's clearly insane. I mean, from the teacher's perspective, like, I mean, knowing teachers nowadays, like they would all like, there's no way they would believe the kid over the teacher on something that crazy.
Exactly. Do you think that the little girl, there's like a little girl too, she's kind of like the teacher's pet.
Mm.
Do you think she's assimilated by aliens too? Because she's kind of also looking for David in the next scene
She
along with the
she
teacher.
was for two reasons. One, the guy who jumped out of the bush with the dad in one of the previous scenes, he mentioned, or the little boy mentions, like, yeah, that's what's so like, Janie's dad from school, like that was her dad.
Oh,
But also, I think in that scene where you see her kind of like trying to chase the kid down too, after he gets away from the nurse, you see a bandit on the back of her neck.
interesting. I must have missed that part. Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. The parents of David have shown up to the school and they're kind of talking to the teacher. You can tell the teacher is at unease because of the way that they do like the focus on the background, right? It's kind of like in Jaws where I don't know what you call it when like
It's
the
a
background gets super far away.
it's that dolly zoom effect where they like
Yeah,
dolly out and zoom in at the same time to kind of like extend the focal length. Or I'm
exactly.
sure there's a cinematography way to describe that. I'm sure
That
what I
sounds
said was
better than
wrong.
what I said. The Jaws thing when Roy Scheider gets freaked out when the Jaws shows up.
Here, Greg pull cinematography terms out of his ass and try to sound smart.
Exactly. So you can tell that she's at unease and that she realizes there's also something wrong with the parents. David, though, has snuck into the back of Teacher Ratchet's candy van. She has like the creeper van.
It's like, yeah, it's like a
just
free
brown.
candy like pedophile van. It's the scariest looking thing ever, and it's full of scary taxidermied animals. Like, why would you get in that van, kid?
Exactly. But they show up to a mountainous area, and Teacher Ratchet goes into one of the caves, and the kid is following her, and you can tell that the cave has been bored out. You can see like the boring lines on the sides
Yeah.
of these tunnels, and then they eventually get to the alien part of it,
Looks
which I
awesome.
it looks awesome, way different than Life Force. Life Force was like a lot of dicks and vaginas.
This is more just like round walls and whooshy doors and gooey looking alien creatures.
A lot less HR Giger. There are a couple, like, I guess, what would you call it? Uh like some of the stairs and the door frames and stuff like that have like a Giger-esque look to it.
They're very organic looking. They're not like
Yes,
they're not a lot of square edges. They're round and kind of bulbous in places and not slimy. They're still like metallic looking, but it's like a lot of curves and the way it's designed. It
exactly.
it definitely this also. I mean, they're keeping their theming with like classic sci-fi movies because it very much feels like a Martian spaceship from like, I don't know, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians or some shit. Like it looks that kind of throwbacky.
Exactly. Eventually Teacher Ratchet gets up to a platform, and there are the two dinosaur looking aliens. So I'm not sure like how the alien hierarchy works. Obviously, like humans have something implanted in their necks to control them. Then
Mhm.
there's like the dinosaur looking
The meatball
aliens,
monsters.
the meatball monsters. They walk on four legs, right? The back legs are kind of like cheetahs, where they're like backwards, right, or inverted.
Yeah, like they're like walking. Remember that? I know this is super nerdy, but like it reminds me of that Pokemon Golem from
Yes,
Gen 1, where they've got like meaty legs on the bottom, and then they've got like more human looking arms on the side. That's what these guys look like. They walk on their chunky legs, and then like their back legs are like skinnier human arms.
got my chunky legs.
Got my chunky meatball legs.
And then like the alien that's in charge comes out of a butthole in the ceiling
Fuck
of
yeah, he
the
does.
alien ship, and he kind of looks like Krang from Ninja Turtles
Yeah,
because he's a brain.
he's like an adorable little brain. He's like cross between that and like Quato
Quato.
from Total Recall.
Exactly. And as he talks to the teacher, like there's like a little thingy in the back of her neck that starts spinning, and you can tell that the like communication is happening because it's flashing. And then the teacher
Yeah,
starts going like AEIOU. She's like talking like insane jibber jabber.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's almost like because I think you can sort of understand how the mind control works through like little antennas or something. It's almost like they put her into diagnostic mode, like
Exactly.
just start saying random shit to make sure you're acting normal.
And then they realize that David is also inside of the alien spaceship, and more dinosaur monsters start coming out trying to get him, but they do a really horrible job because these aliens don't move that fast.
No, I mean they're clearly like guys in suits, which adds to the camp factor. But like in the reality of the movie, these meatball monsters are totally non-threatening. They do not move
Exactly.
very well.
Which makes me wonder, like, how do they capture the adults, right? Like, did they just stand there and take it, or I don't know? It's like movie hand waving, right? Like
Yeah,
it
we
happened
we
because it happened.
we don't. Thankfully, we don't see it, so we don't really have to think about it too much.
Exactly. David runs away out of the caves, and for some reason, Karen Black is just kind of there on the side of the road.
Yeah, where did she come from? She just like pulls up in a car. Like, how did she know that he was there?
I have no idea. Another one of those weird hand wavy moments, right?
Yeah,
Like the dad gets abducted because he has to. Karen Black is here because she needs to be.
yeah. It's like Chuck Norris in Invasion USA. He just got like a sixth sense for bad guys and where they are, and he just knows where to be at the right time.
Exactly. So David immediately takes Karen Black to where the alien landing site is, and there's nothing there. But this is the first time that we, the audience, have seen this area. So why would we expect something to be there?
Yeah, this was kind of a, I don't know. It felt like it was kind of a like deflated moment. Like it felt like that, like the reveal of what's on the other side of the hill, given how much it's been built up so far, should have been a bigger reveal, like with more music and suspense or something. But like we just kind of like cut to this sandy looking quarry, kind of like a sand pit.
Exactly.
It was like,
Tatooine.
yeah, it's weird. And it's weird for two reasons. One, yeah, like we've never seen it before, so we don't know that this is different than what was there when the aliens were active. But like for like the second thing is it's hard to believe that this sandy looking quarry pit is on the other side of that like really like picturesque grassy hill that we saw from the kid's bedroom window.
Exactly. 100%.
It's really, really weird kind of contrast there, but whatever.
Another wind out of your sails moment. And
Yeah.
Karen Black is even like, there's nothing here. What are you talking about? But then two guys in orange jumpsuits come out and they start like metal detecting, right? Because
Mhm.
the NASA dad, and Lorraine Newman, they're like, yeah, over there, that's where like some weird stuff happened. And these two goofballs just go out there and they get like dune sandwormed
Yeah.
into the ground. So Karen Black sees this, and she's like, "Oh shit, there is something weird here."
Yeah. Man, isn't that like every kid's worst nightmare? Like getting sucked into quicksand. It's like I love that meme. Everyone's like complaining, like, as a kid, you think that quicksand is gonna be like a really huge problem when you're an adult, but
Quicksand in the
not so
Bermuda
much.
Triangle.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought those were
Things,
going to play bigger factors than my
yep,
safety.
bigger, more real dangers in the real world, but not so much. But yeah, as like a kid watching this movie, that's probably terrifying.
Oh, definitely, 100%. As Karen Black and David walk back to their car, they see Teacher Ratchet driving a bus because there's like an afternoon field trip, which again, like
To the pit.
time delineation, because she was just in the alien spacecraft, but then she got all the way back to school and
Okay.
back to
Yeah.
that point.
And that was like the end of the day. That was like the end of the school day when the kid jumped in Ratchet's van and
Yeah,
over to the alien spacecraft. Like this is, I mean, if we're assuming linear time in this universe, like it's like 6, 7 o'clock in the afternoon now in the evening. And
exactly.
like what kids are going on a field? What parents are letting their kids go on a field trip to a sand pit at 7 o'clock in the afternoon?
It is certainly weird.
Yeah.
Certainly weird. But these are just kind of like little nitpicky things where if you're watching it a little too hard, you're gonna notice, right?
Yeah.
But so Karen Black stops to get, I guess, what she gets tries to get some information from a gas station attendant. She's trying to make a phone call to someone, right?
Yeah, she says she's gonna like they stop at a gas station. She's gonna call the state police, I guess, because they know that the local police are already taken over, so they call the state police.
Yep, they're assimilated. Uh, but then the teacher shows up out of nowhere and tries to abduct David again. But we just saw her driving the other way.
Yeah, I think she'd already dropped off the kids at the sand pit for assimilation, and now she's back. And it's actually kind of creepy the way she rolls up. It's like there's like the kids in the foreground sitting in the car watching Karen Black make a phone call. He's in focus, and then out of focus in the background, you see the bus like slowly pull up next to the car, and you can see Teacher Ratchet in the driver's seat, like staring at him. It's actually kind of a creepy moment, but logically, it makes no sense why he should be there so quick.
Exactly. David starts booking it down the street. The teacher, who is like, she's probably like 60 years old in real life, is running after her. And then Karen Black gets in the car and eventually picks up David. So they all have now come to the realization that the teacher is 100%
Yeah,
a bad guy.
I'll get you for this, David Gardner. Damn, she says from the street after having tried to abduct a kid in broad daylight.
Yeah. So what do? They all go back to the school so they can make phone calls to the police and everything else like that. And they eventually get to the boiler room of
Freddy's gonna get you.
the school. Again, yeah, it's kind of creepy down there, right?
Yeah, and like it's a I don't know. Did your elementary school have a boiler room?
I don't remember. My elementary school was up north, so I would assume that there was probably a more sizable heating area,
Yeah,
right? But
it's one of those things like I almost want to go back to my like elementary schools from when I was a kid, just to like look in all the rooms that you were never allowed to be in as a kid, just to see what
exactly.
other like does any of this. I mean, yeah, older schools probably do have a boiler room, but This was like freaking huge. It looks like it's like in the bowels of a steamship or something, because there's also that giant mountain of coal behind the boilers. Did you
Again,
notice that?
yeah, super weird, right?
Yeah, like
Just like, what is going on here?
were we really still heating schools with coal in the 80s?
We gotta keep it all powered up. We gotta be there's like some poor bastard getting black lung.
Yeah. Yeah, like, hey, Freddy Krueger, get more coal on the fire.
All right, I'll see you in your dreams,
I'll see your
bitch.
dreams. Wrong movie.
But this is the moment, especially where the kid is touching Karen Black's face and like putting his hand over her mouth, and he's like reassuring her, "Don't be scared." And she's like, "I'm not scared. I'm terrified."
I'm terrified. Way to be a strong authority figure there, lady.
Exactly. As the assimilated cops are looking around, everything starts shaking, and that's when like the alien earth mover thing like pops through the wall.
It's through
Like
the floor.
what's drilling through? Yeah,
yeah, the little tunnel maker, the
exactly. Kind of again, like, but why though? Why there?
I don't know. It's weird why they're. I mean, I guess they need to assimilate the school. They need to get to the teachers, so they're going to put something in the boiler room. But like, the weird part is the assimilated cops are also surprised at what's happening. Like, wouldn't they be in the know that that's what was about to happen?
Exactly. Like they should be aware that
The simulation drill is coming. Yeah,
exactly, like it's drill o'clock. The drill should be coming through the fucking floor at any moment.
Yeah, but they're freaked out too. So
again, there's like more driving, a lot more dialogue between Karen Black and David, and that's when they go, we need to go talk to General blah blah blah, because the kid just knows about the general, probably because
his dad works there, right? Yeah, I guess it's like some like joint NASA Marine base, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm.
But General Clement Wilson is played by James Carn, who was in Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, he was Frank, one of the you need a medical supply employees, and also the sleazy real estate boss from Poltergeist.
Exactly. What's really weird is how Frank, we'll just call him Frank.
He's Frank in my notes, yeah.
is so open to the kid and hearing the insanity that he wants to say.
Yeah, this is another part that also felt very throwbacky to me, because I don't know why I keep going back to this movie, but like, remember Santa Claus Conquers the Martians? Like, all of the adults, like their parents don't believe them, but like all of the adult Martians never, like they talk to the kids like they're adults almost. It's hard. It's a dynamic. It's hard to describe, but like they tell the kids way more than any normal people would tell kids in real life, like talking about UFOs. And I think one of the other Marines like confirms, well, there was a UFO confirmed sighting at that hill last night. Like, wow, how would you say that in front of kids, let alone any civilians?
There's a lot of like really weird, we're going to talk military in front of the civilians moments during like this 10-minute scene.
Yeah.
But the general is very open to hearing what the kid has to say.
Oh yeah, his parents don't believe him, but goddamn, this Marine Corps general or whatever branch he's from, he believes that shit out of that kid.
Exactly. He brings in the two people that we see from earlier in the film who were doing the metal detecting in to question them to see what they saw over at the hill. And as the questions start coming in, you can tell that they get nervous. They pull out their guns and they try to kill Frank.
Not on his watch.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone has a gun, because not only are they Marines, but or not only are they in the military,
they're carrying sidearms all the time.
They're Marines, so they always carry guns, right?
I feel like we've talked about this on previous episodes. Like, that's definitely not a thing, right? Like,
oh, definitely not.
No one is packing heat on base all the time.
Exactly.
Maybe MPs, right?
Yeah. Unless you're a cop. The two metal detector people are remotely killed by like a small bomb implanted in their neck, the thing that's like controlling them for the master meatball alien Krang
starts like sparking, and I guess it's like they know that their puppet agents are compromised, so they're going to just remote detonate them basically.
Exactly. But this is all the evidence Frank needs in order to believe the kid and Karen Black. So they call in people from SETI, which is the what is it? What are they called? I know it's called
Search for
SETI.
extraterrestrial intelligence.
Exactly.
I think.
And
Yeah.
one of the actors there is Bud Cort. I don't know if you know who this guy is. He was in one really big movie in the 70s called Harold and Maude. And then he kind
Oh,
of
okay.
like
Was he Harold?
he was Harold, yeah.
Yeah, I knew he looked familiar. I'd never seen that movie, but I've seen clips of it. I know the poster. I
Yep.
know the looks of them. Okay.
He had
Kind
a
of
lot of different things throughout his entire career, but then he kind of had like a slight resurgence in the early 2000s when he did the Wes Anderson movie, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. He was the accountant that gets kidnapped
Oh,
that they have
okay.
to rescue.
Good for him.
Spoilers for a movie that's like 15 years old.
A weird indie movie that a lot of people probably will never watch anyway.
Exactly. Meanwhile, though, mom and dad have given more assimilated people C4 and they've strapped it to the side of like, I don't know, like a giant tanker truck full of NASA fuel, and they're gonna drive it into the side of the building. Or
NASA
they're
fuel.
they're driving it towards a rocket ship that's going to Mars, that they never really explain why they
No.
need to go to Mars.
Yeah, I actually had that question. Is like wait, like what are they launching exactly? Like the city guys vaguely talk about it, like they're launching another Mars mission to look for water under the surface or something. But like they treat it like it's like the antidote to all the weird shit going on. Like we need to
Exactly.
get the rocket off, otherwise, blah 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 blah. But we don't know anything. Like it's really not talked about all that much. It's just a rocket launch that's got to happen for some reason.
Exactly. And that's why it's kind of confusing, right? Like, I don't know
What's
why
so
this
important
is
about it?
exactly. But this just spurs more people to action. And I think this is like the area where the quote of the week comes in,
Oh
right?
yeah, because so the tanker blasts through a security checkpoint and blows up the rocket, and at that point, General Frank is off his rock. He's like, "Fuck it, we gotta mobilize and go get those aliens." And he's like, I forget what he says before this, but he says, "Marines have no qualms about killing Martians." Oh my god,
Exactly.
it's and he delivers it in that like kind of like crazed Frank voice, the same voice that we get in Return of the Living Dead, where they're like trying to figure out a way to kill the zombie. It's so perfect, and it's like the most America thing ever. We're gonna go kill them aliens.
David, can you take me to that place? To the sand pit?
Yeah, it's right behind the house.
Is Alert Force standing by? Captain Curtis, take a platoon to get down to the school. So worried, boy, we're not out of options yet. Marines have no qualms about killing Martians.
Exactly. And that's essentially what the last quarter of the movie is, right?
Yeah.
They show up, they enter the subterranean alien underground base. There's like APCs, rocket launchers, tanks, like they're going full ham on this.
Oh yeah.
And for some reason, since the kid's parents are involved, they allow the child to be a part of this entire military operation.
Yeah. He's like on the front lines too. Like when they go into the tunnel, like it's like General Frank, Karen Black, the kid, and Bazooka Joe there, which seems like a stupid choice, by the way, having a bazooka in like a sand tunnel. But like, why is this kid on the front lines? Like, get him back. They're like still like listening to him. He's like practically giving orders to the general.
Exactly. And the general is just taking it.
Yeah.
I think he actually enjoys it. He's kind of like, I really like this kid being in charge.
Yeah.
But they all go full bore into the subterranean alien lair where they get Bud Cort starts talking to the Tyrannosaurus Rex aliens, and he's like, they understand me, they know what I'm saying. And then he gets like phasered, Star Trek phasered, and he disappears. Yeah. And then
that was a cool effect.
All the Marines just start shooting the aliens, and they realize that they're like M16s really have no effect on them. So that's when Bazooka Joe shows up and he blows them up. Now, I don't know if you know this. The front of the bazooka, obviously super dangerous.
Yeah.
But you do know that the back of this bazooka equally as dangerous for like a limited amount of people. And that bazooka guy shoots that fucking thing off with total disregard to everyone behind him.
Oh yeah,
Like,
and there's a ton of people behind him.
Yeah,
They're like in
there's
a
like
tight crowd.
10 people would have died
Yeah.
right there.
And again, like we're in these like super close quarters. It's like a really like low ceiling tunnel made out of sand, by the way. Like I feel like you could sneeze and this tunnel would collapse. And this idiot's blasting off a rocket launcher at like point blank range.
Yep.
It's great.
But those aliens do die, and that's all that really matters when you're in your America fuck yeah moment.
Fuck yeah, gotta kill them Martians.
Eventually we get to a point where like the Marines are getting overtaken by the aliens, and you finally get to see how they implant the stuff in the back of their neck, and it's the general's right hand man who gets abducted and assimilated. And I think that's when the Marines finally come to the realization that fuck this, we just need to blow the entire thing up like aliens style, right? Like we got to nuke this thing from orbit.
Yeah, exactly. At that point, they're like, they see more people getting taken, and they send in their C4 team to drop in some charges, which instead of just like throwing into the sand pit to get swallowed up, they send guys out on foot. And like, that seems like unnecessarily dangerous. Why not just throw the stuff in, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because you could kind of like just, I don't know, if you enough like explosion on the surface would collapse everything underneath it, even if there's like structures holding things up.
Yeah, you'd think so. I on second thought, maybe they want it to get swallowed up, and the only way for them to get it to get swallowed is if they put people out there as bait. Maybe that was why.
I don't know.
It didn't seem like that's what their plan was.
We're thinking too hard.
How to blow up this sand alien ship.
Meanwhile, David is talking to Krang and Teacher Ratchet, and he's trying to convince them of just leaving everyone alone, giving back the parents, and just leaving, right?
They're good people, sir.
Definitely. Exactly. He does say that they're good people. Definitely like child logic. Like if I try to talk to this alien, I will be able to get my way.
Yeah. Sorry, kid. You can't reason with the meatball and brain slug monsters.
Exactly. And the teacher is laughing at him and kind of making fun of him for doing this entire thing. And even the T-Rex dinosaur alien things are laughing too at one point.
Yeah, they are. I think that's after they eat Nurse Ratchet, right?
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, Frank is confronted by his right-hand man who's been assimilated. But I guess because it's like a new assimilation, he still has slight control over himself, and he's like, shoot me,
kill me.
And they do, like fucking 20 Marines just unload into this
just
guy.
Blow him away. Yeah, at this point, I don't know if you noticed, I think he was around before this also, but right when they did this firing squad thing against this guy, one of the other army guys standing next to General Frank is Christopher Allport. He was the sheriff from Jack Frost.
I did not notice that.
Yeah. What a small world, right? I think he, like I said, I need to go back and rewatch some of it, but I think he was there in the base too. I just didn't notice. But yeah, kind of a small world. Another recognizable character actor. He's in X-Files also.
Interesting. Yeah. But now it's escape from alien base.
Bill.
And like the kid notices that like the aliens are carrying some kind of cannon, like their phaser cannon on their shoulder, and the aliens are feeding it copper. That's how they're powering their ships. That's why they go to Copperhead Mine.
Yep, they steal the pennies. All that copper stuff comes back full circle.
Exactly, because at one point the Marines, Karen Black, and the kid, they're cornered. They have the alien weapon, but it's out of power. And this one, if the first line wasn't going to be your quote of the week, this one should be as well, where they're like, the general's like, we need copper. Does anyone have any pennies?
Yeah.
And like the Marines like, no, sir, we don't carry any loose change into battle.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we're on the same page on that. That was absolutely the runner-up for quote of the week. We don't carry loose change into combat, sir.
We don't carry
oh my God.
loose change into combat.
Stupid General Frank. What were you thinking?
But the kid is like, oh, I have my 1950 double die penny. And he slides it into the butt crack of the phaser weapon. And he's like, You aim, I'll shoot, and then they start blowing up aliens and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's glorious. This we got to talk about the gun though too. Like it doesn't look like a gun whatsoever. It's like a looks like a motorcycle helmet almost, right?
It's a really bad David Cronenberg-esque alien weapon, right? Because
Yeah,
David Cronenberg always has like these weird zany things in his movies, like the vagina thing for James Woods and
yeah,
Videodrome, and
weird like weird organic cross with technology look. That's definitely what this looks like. It was like a smaller meatball that the meatball monsters would carry around.
exactly. It is what it is. I wonder if it's similar to what the original movie was like, but I can't see them going full bore with the aliens in this way. I would assume that the 1950s ones is just some guy in green body paint, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Again, yeah, going back to Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, like those. Yeah, that's exactly what those guys were. They were like in green leotards, bad green face paint, and antennas. That's probably as good as it was. We should maybe go back and watch the first one just to compare and contrast. But that's probably what it was.
Yeah, exactly. That would be an interesting thing. Maybe we like in a couple movies we go back and watch the 1950s Invaders from Mars just to see how
Yeah.
the two compare. Um, but the C4 is set, everything is ready to blow, but not before you have a heartfelt moment between mom and dad alien, in which they try to entice David to stay around and join them on their alien journey. But David
Yeah.
doesn't want to have anything with it.
Did they really think that was going to work?
Exactly. But as they run out, the C4 timer is going down, the ET spaceship is flying up, and mom and dad have the small explosion in the back of their head too, but they don't die. They
No,
become
yeah.
mom and dad again.
They chase David out of the ship as it's like taking off, like just in time, and then as the C4 in the ship explodes, like their necks start sparking too, but like it doesn't kill them the way it did the two guy hazmat suits. Yeah, it was really strange.
Kind of weird. As the main alien spaceship explodes, we are transported back to the room, to David's bedroom, where it was all a dream. And then the slow realization of everything that we just experienced as an audience sets in.
Yeah.
And you realize that the last 1 hour, 32 minutes, and 42 seconds has been a complete lie, thus a waste of time.
Yeah. It's like those were like the worst Star Trek episodes where it was like the reset button episodes, I think they called them. I know other TV shows did this too, where it was all a dream or it was all a simulation or something like that. I hate when they do that. It totally trivializes everything we just saw. And it'd be one thing if they like set up some kind of like alternate reality or like dream thing, like they were putting people into dream states to get them to do things. Like none of that was established as a mechanism that would also reasonably cause this kid to have such a vivid dream. It was just a stupid plot device. Ugh.
Yep. And he has the conversation with mom and dad, and the dad kind of goes, you had the penny, the lightning storm, you concocted all this within your head, and it kind of makes sense to you, the audience, that the child would do this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the kid was the main character, quote unquote, throughout the entire film, and he was able to do all the military stuff.
I guess
as the kid calms down and he goes back to sleep, he sees some weird lights happening in the outside, and he sees an alien spacecraft, and then we see the title card, Invaders from Mars. He goes to the mom and dad's room where he's screaming.
We don't see what he sees, but
you hear
something
alien
is
sounds.
Happening. Yep, and that's the freeze frame.
Invaders from Mars.
It's almost like it's almost worse than just like it was all a dream, because like it was all a dream and then the exact same thing starts happening again. Like it's almost like a loop.
Yeah,
because it's the same ship, it's the same lights, like it's the exact same thing that he saw from his window before in the beginning. Just again, I have to say, this movie was a solid like 3.5, 4 stars for me until the ending.
Same
at which
here.
Point it became a 3.
It's a 3 for me because of the same thing.
Yep.
I don't like dream sequences that overtake a good majority of the film, let alone the entire film.
Yeah, total reset button. I mean, I guess they could have just, the way that they should have ended it was the spaceship blows up, his parents are back to normal, but he goes to school and maybe the little girl is still taken over or something. Or like he sees something weird and he's not so sure that all of the alien like neck control devices were destroyed. Something like that. Like a little bit of, it was everything's back to normal, or is it? That kind of ending.
Exactly.
That's what it should have been. But no, it was all a dream. Ooh. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, aside from the ending, we were ripping on this movie a lot. I think I actually quite liked it. It was super campy. Like had a lot of like B movie charm, but I think a lot of it was intentional, so it looked really good. It had like a very like 80s premise. I mean, maybe this was something that they did in the 50s too and just didn't realize, but like that like classic formula of like a crazy thing happens and the kid sees the crazy thing and he tries to tell other people, but they don't believe him, and he's somehow involved in saving the world. I always found those kind of plots really charming.
Yeah, exactly. Because and it's a very 80s thing where like Goonies and stuff like that, where
Yeah.
kids were like main characters and they were able to do adult things. So you kind of don't really question it too much in this movie. But then it makes, I guess, more sense why the general's listening to a kid, because it turns out that it was all in his head.
Yeah. I think maybe that's why I hate the ending as much as it is, because it cheapens that classic like movie trope of the kid being way more in the center of the action than they otherwise would be in real life. Like I want to suspend my disbelief and let that be things that are happening and just like embrace the camp factor. Like I don't need that explained away by, oh, it was all a dream, that's why he was the main character. You know what I mean? Like Exactly. It cheapens it. So that was kind of annoying, but no, otherwise I think it was a pretty fun movie. I'm not sure if it was as kid friendly as I was thinking it would be from the beginning, because especially at the end, like the disintegration gun and the drill that implants the thing in the back of people's necks, like those were really kind of gruesome. I'm not sure if you'd want kids watching this for that.
Exactly. It's kind of, it teeters that line to who is the audience for.
Yeah.
The kid is so young. He's probably like 12, 13. So like the younger adult teenage audience probably won't be able to connect with him. And there's parts that are too scary for like that
10 that demographic, yeah,
to 12-year-old range. So and adults, I mean, besides it, you know, it's a fun movie, but I don't see adults going into this going like, oh my god, maybe older adults because it's a remake of an older film.
That's the only thing I can think of is it was kind of a nostalgia play for, I mean, because people, moviegoers in the 80s, they were kids when those movies are originally coming out. So it's the same thing that they're doing now. Like they're remaking all of the 80s and 90s movies for people our age. Like that's why Detective Pikachu came out, right? Like the Pokemon generation is now adults and they're going to movies. So they're going to try to capitalize on that.
Exactly.
That must have been what this was. But
well, I mean, it was definitely a lot better than Life Force. I will give it that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would argue the visuals are more impressive. There's a lot more kind of cool visuals in Life Force, but this is just a much more fun, entertaining movie. I was never bored throughout this. It was all kind of popcorn munching, good fun for most of it.
Exactly. I would definitely recommend this to someone who's having like an 80s themed camp night.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a good, it's got a drive-in movie feel. So definitely, watch it with a group or something and turn your brain off a little bit. Don't overthink it the way that we were trying to figure out like the mechanics of blowing up a spaceship underground.
Exactly.
Turn your brain off.
Exactly. Well, what other movies have you watched recently?
Well, speaking of aliens, it's the end of April, which means it's time to rewatch the entire Alien franchise in honor of Alien Day, April 26th for LV-426. LV-426. The planet they find the alien on or the eggs on in the beginning of the first movie. So yeah, we started that off. I watched the original Alien last night. on the glorious 4K. I think it's like the 40th anniversary 4K Blu-ray that they released a couple years ago. There's nothing. Honestly, we were doing the podcast last year. I probably said everything I could say then too. It's an amazing movie, probably the pinnacle of sci-fi horror in my opinion. Maybe my favorite movie, depending on when you ask me. So I think the one change this time that it might be worth mentioning is I normally watch the director's cut when I watch that movie. But I watched the theatrical version this time. It's been a while since I've seen it. It's definitely a much tighter movie. I can definitely agree with the kind of cuts they made to trim it down. But yeah, so it was, I mean, yeah, looks great. And if you are somehow you were listening to this and haven't seen it, please go watch it. Email us, tell us what you think. It's awesome.
If you haven't seen Alien and you're listening to this, I don't know what.
Stop listening right now and go watch that.
Exactly. It would be weird to be like, yeah, I saw Invasion from Mars, but I've never.
But
seen
not this.
Alien.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna. There's a lot of classics that I have not seen myself. Things that people were like, "Oh my god, you haven't seen blank." Like, I'll never judge someone for not having seen a quote unquote classic of any kind. So, but if you haven't watched it yet, take this as an initiative. Go watch it. So yeah, watch that. And then I palate cleansed, or I guess the reverse of palate cleansing. We watched a Vinegar Syndrome release, also in 4K, Flesh Eater from 1988. Definitely like super low budget, kids in the woods having a party, and then suddenly zombies. I think the stunt casting for this one was the Reverend zombie from the beginning of Night of the Living Dead is recast here as like the main zombie, kind of starts it all. It starts kind of slow, but once it gets going, like there's lots of gory kills, like really funny, bad acting, bad movie logic. Like Curse 2 was. This is another one that would be really fun to watch with like a group of friends when you want to like laugh at a bad movie, because there's lots to laugh at. There's one line which if we did it on the show, it would be quote of the week for sure. There's like a zombie attack in a barn party, and this girl in the background with like the thickest Long Island accent sees all the horror and just says like totally deadpan, "Oh my god." Oh my god. It's like the delivery of it was so perfect. Becky and I are like, we've been saying that to each other ever since. Like we're just like every other thing, like, "Oh my god."
Nice.
So good.
That's what's great about some of those B movies. Just like there's always like some kind of line in each one that you can latch on to and have a good time with, right?
Yep. Yeah, and just repeat ad nauseum for days afterwards. Yep. Love it.
Oh man.
What else you been watching?
Let's see. I rewatched The Batman with Jackie. She really enjoyed it.
Loved it.
Loved it. I will say, even in the comfort of my own home, I was getting pee phobia and was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to piss soon. And I know that I know now that this movie is not coming to an end anytime soon. So
better go easy on that rosé.
Exactly. Yeah, I drank a lot of rosé that night. Yeah, again, just like it, really good movie. The sheer length of it though makes repeat watching of it a little bit harder.
Yeah,
but definitely one of the best Batman movies.
Yeah, definitely agree.
I watched a movie called The Collar last night, a Vinegar Syndrome release. This one starring Malcolm McDowell.
Oh, okay.
There's only two actors in the entire thing, Malcolm McDowell and Madeline Smith. And
interesting.
They do a really great job playing off of each other. The movie is very interesting. Don't read anything about it, because I'm going to let you borrow it. And I want to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, you sent me a message and you said just like, I think you used the word insane to describe it. And
yeah,
unsure if it was like insanely good or insanely bad, which definitely piqued my interest.
Exactly.
Can't wait.
Yeah, those are probably the two most notable movies that I watched this week. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure next week when we do the next episode, I'll have the rest of the Alien series under my belt. So warts and all, I will watch that entire franchise. Prometheus and Covenant.
Gonna watch number 4. I think that Prometheus and Covenant, I definitely enjoy Covenant. Prometheus, it's been a while for me. I still think number 4 is the worst.
Resurrection. Yeah. This is probably all conversation that we've had in previous episodes, but God, they're all underrated in my opinion. I love Alien 3 to death. I love Alien Resurrection. Honestly, Alien Resurrection would pair really well with Invaders from Mars because I would argue that that has a lot of the same kind of camp value that this movie does. Just like it, like winking at the audience, like knowing that they're going over the top, kind of like comic booky, like totally unrealistic, and just kind of going nuts with it. I think it would pair pretty well with this actually.
Oh, yeah. I remember, what was it? What's her name in it? I can't believe I can't think of it. Winona Ryder.
Winona
was
Ryder,
like,
yeah.
You're the new bitch bot. Like,
You're the new pleasure model, aren't you?
exactly. And then all the best part of the movie is all the failed Ripley clones.
Oh my God, yeah. Kill me. No, Phil,
So
the best
good.
part of that movie is where the general gets like punctured in the back of his skull and he reaches back and pulls out a piece of his brain and looks at it.
That part was always weird to me. I always like the fact that, like, yeah, that he reaches in his head and pulls
Right?
a piece of himself out.
Yeah, that's the kind of campiness I'm talking about. Like in this movie, like it's so over the top, like gory, insane. It's must have taken an influence from some of this stuff.
Insane. So I know we definitely like our movies to be sci-fi, horror, action. We have a hard time with one genre in particular, especially with canon, and that's the comedy.
Oh no. I thought you were gonna say like romance drama, and I was like getting flashbacks to Lady Shadow's Lover and Love Streams.
I would rather watch something like that than what we're about to. Do you know that Richard Dreyfuss has a brother?
I do
Lauren
now.
Dreyfuss. He hasn't been in a lot of movies. In fact, we're gonna watch his first movie, Detective School Dropouts, an action comedy starring Lauren Dreyfuss and some other guy named David Landsberg.
Oh.
Yeah, two bumbling private
Oh.
detectives get themselves hired to find a missing person. They find themselves in the middle of a mob war when it turns out that the missing person is somebody the mob wants to stay missing.
What's the name of this movie?
Detective School Dropouts.
Oh my God. Is this like a police academy movie? Is that what this is?
I would assume that this is probably close to a police academy movie. Valeria Golino is in it, and she's in Hot Shots. She's Ramada Thompson. She's like the main love interest.
Is it going to be that kind of movie, like the airplane Naked Gun kind of? Because when those movies go bad, they go real bad.
Exactly.
But, I mean, I would argue Airplane 2 is on the cusp of being that kind of movie.
Airplane 2, that's the one with
Shatner in
Kirk,
it,
right?
Yeah. Yep. And it's basically the first movie, only worse. I will still watch it. I still like it. I'll still chuckle at it, but it is a far cry from the original. And a lot of those like spoofy slapstick movies, I mean, even going to like the 2000s with like some of the later scary movie sequels and like Date Movie and all that garbage, it has the potential to go real bad. So I have to say, I'm not too optimistic about Detective School Dropouts.
And neither am I. And you can only assume that we're going to watch the finest VHS rip on YouTube for it. So not only is it going to be shit, it's going to look like shit.
Oh, wait. According to Google, it's Paramount Plus.
No way.
Yeah.
Detective School Dropouts is on Paramount Plus. We're still going to read the fucking YouTube comments for this. There wasn't anything great on on Invaders from Mars. There was only like 4 comments, and they were just like, "Yeah, this was really good."
It was really good. Yeah, I feel like it's only the really bad movies that deserve the YouTube comment gauntlet. So we'll see how good this one is, but I suspect it's going to earn those comments.
Oh my God, it is. That's so insane. That's insane to me.
Yeah, I think, I mean, so the MGM has a weird association. Like they must own the canon library, and I think I've seen a lot of other MGM movies on Paramount Plus. I could be mistaken. I think it might be because I think Amazon owns a bunch of their catalog too.
True. Yeah. A lot of the stuff is owned by MGM. So
Well, that's good. Maybe it's if nothing else, it will keep us from having to watch ads, and it will keep us from having to watch a really super low quality VHS rip. So maybe it'll at least look okay. We can see what's going on in Detective School Dropouts.
Yep. Hopefully we can finish it. That's all I care about.
It would have to be real bad for me to Dean. I just on a hunch, I don't think it will cause me to DNF like Last American Virgin did. It would have to get really offensive to the senses to get to that point.
They're gonna have abortions set to pop music.
Oh my god, and oh my god, gratuitous like boob shots of a girl putting on a gown to get an abortion that she doesn't want to get. Fuck that movie, man.
Oh man. Well, there you go. Detective School Dropouts is going to be the next one. Greg, do you have anything else?
No. It'd be nice if there were aliens in that, but I'm not holding out any hope. So
You never know. It could be that zany where all of a sudden it's like, ooh, it's aliens.
oh my god, we gotta detect them.
we have to detect the aliens. I have
That's what detectives say, right?
I actually just got a Vinegar Syndrome movie. It's called like Alien Detective LA or LA Detective Alien.
Oh, Alien Private Eye.
Alien Private Eye. God damn, I wasn't even close.
I didn't pick that one up. That'll be another one I'll have to borrow from you at some point because
Yeah,
I think Red Letter Media has that in one of their best of the worst episodes. And God, I just remember the weird dancing that the main guy did and constantly like who, what, when, who, why, where. Ooh, that might be a good another and similar movie we can watch at some point if we're craving more alien related genres films.
it could either pair with this or it could pair with Alien from LA.
Oh, I know they've got that with Brooke Shields. Who's in that? Who was an alien from LA?
It was one of like a Playboy model or something.
It was a model.
Not he has like a really high pitched voice.
I gotta go. I'll go look at it at some point. It's bugging me that I don't know that off the top of my head. But
Kathy Ireland.
Yep, that's it. We'll get there eventually. How many episodes away are we from that one?
Oh geez, I think that one's
that's like 89 or something, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's like 1,000 movies between here and there.
God. Well, Detective School Dropouts. We'll get through it. Maybe it'll be good. Who knows?
You never know. You never know. Well, if you like what you're hearing, go ahead, like, subscribe, comment down below. You can find us on YouTube at That's Canon. You can find us on every podcast network, Stitcher. What's that other one? Spotify,
Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, whatever.
Subscribe to all of them. Listen to all of them. And send us an email at thatscanon@gmail.com. I'll read anything that you sent. I read that one guy's ramblings, and it was awesome.
Yeah, amazing. Send us more of that.
Exactly.
We love it.
Exactly. And remember, since we said it,
that's aliens.